You're not going to believe this. I just heard someone say that XRP will hit $1,000. Yes, $1,000 per XRP. Now I know, it sounds insane. I nearly did a whole spit take with my coffee, but here's the thing. I went digging into this claim, and what I discovered seriously flipped my perspective. So, the other night, I'm doom scrolling through Twitter, or X as we call it now, and I stumbled on a post by this investor guy, Armando. Now, he straight up says that XRP will definitely reach $1,000 one day. Definitely, as in inevitable. Now, my first reaction was, oh boy, here we go again, another round of hopium for the XRP holders. I mean, come on. $1,000 is something like 33,000% increase from where XRP is today. That's literally turning $1,000 into 300 grand. It sounded like one of those late night infomercials. Buy now and 1000x your money. I mean, I've been around crypto long enough to smell the hype, and this had all of the markings. So, at least I thought. But something about, Armando's confidence actually intrigued me here. This wasn't your typical anonymous moon boy. He's actually a known market expert, and he wasn't saying soon. In fact, he was actually saying not soon. Right? That twist kind of made me pause for a second. Why would a seasoned investor be so sure about $1,000 yet also claim about it kind of taking a rather long time? So I had to find out what was behind all of this, and that kind of kicked off my little adventure of chasing the $1,000 XRP rumor. First, context. Now, XRP has been on a kind of mini tear recently. It surged over 60% to around $3.66 at one point earlier this year, which had us OG XRP holders feeling, well, vindicated. After years of kind of, boring kind of times, seeing $3 and some change was kind of like rain after a drought. But then the kind of broader crypto market did its usual thing, a pullback, and XRP slipped back to around the $3 area. Typical. Now, the hype died down pretty quickly, and the old kind of cynicism kind of crept back into people, right? And people started saying, well, that was it. Party is over. XRP is never gonna break its old all-time high, sustainably. And I'll admit, even I kind of felt a tinge of here we go again. Enter Armando Pantoja. In the middle of this kind of cool down, he went on one, or at least it was that kind of one guy at kind of a gloomy party who is actually, still upbeat. Now, he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, he says, guys, relax. XRP is definitely going to reach 4 digits eventually. 4 digits, as in at least $1,000 per coin. Now, naturally, crypto Twitter had a bit of a field day with that one, right? Some were cheering, others were calling him delusional. Meanwhile, of course, I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, is this for real? Now, I've seen some bold predictions before. Heck, I've survived the great XRP to $589 by year end meme of 2018. And yes, I'll admit it, I was low-key hoping for it back then too. Spoiler, it didn't happen. And my Lambo dreams were put on hold. So, you could say that I've been kind of jaded by crazy XRP rumors in the past, but Armando felt, a little bit different here. It wasn't moon tomorrow, bro. It was actually more like, we'll get there when we get there. So I dug into Armando's commentary to understand his reasoning. And it turns out that he wasn't just tossing out a random number. He was comparing XRP's journey to Bitcoin's earlier days. The part really kind of hooked me here was because I love a good old history lesson. So here's a bit of a flashback for you guys too. Bitcoin first touched $1,000 way back in November of 2013. So that was about 4 years after Bitcoin even started trading. Can you imagine? 4 years to go from basically pennies to $1,000. That's pretty nuts, right? But here is the kicker. Bitcoin didn't stay above $1,000 for that long in 2013. It popped over that milestone and then crashed. People who FOMO'd, bought kind of at the 1K area had to wait years to even break even. In fact, Bitcoin only decisively conquered and stayed above the $1,000 mark in early 2017, roughly 8 years after its launch. 8 years, yeah. I remember that time, right? 2017 kind of felt like Bitcoin's graduation after a long, awkward kind of teenage phase. So what is Armando getting at with all of this? Well, basically, crypto growth takes time and, get this one, patience, right? Early hype can fizzle out, and only those projects with real momentum actually eventually come back to hit those big milestones for good. Now, let's apply this to XRP. Now, XRP's been around a long time too, since 2012, which makes it one of the OGs in crypto. It's been 13 years and counting, and obviously, XRP has never even come near to $1,000. The all-time high was actually around kind of $3 to $4 or $3.80 something back in the day. So if you follow the straight kind of Bitcoin analogy, you might think, well, it hasn't exactly happened by now, maybe it never will. And a lot of people do think that. But here is what kind of Armando threw a bit of a curveball at everyone, right? He pointed to the SEC lawsuit as a major reason that XRP's timeline got, well, messed up. You've probably heard about this one, right? The US Securities and Exchange Commission went after Ripple, and that's the company related to XRP, in December of 2020. Now, that lawsuit was like a 50-pound weight on XRP's back for a fair few years. It scared off investors, got XRP delisted from some exchanges, created a whole ton of uncertainty. Now, Armando is basically saying that because of that, the price action just hasn't been there, right? XRP lost a few years of natural growth because of it. It's as if XRP's progression just froze in 2020 and 2021 and 2022. While other cryptos like Ethereum, which hit new highs, or even newer players like Solana, had their run too. Now, here we are in 2025, and that legal drama is finally nearing, or actually has come to an end. Ripple kind of got partial victories back in 2023, and all the appeals have been dropped as well. So, Armando's view is that with the lawsuit behind us, XRP is essentially starting fresh from here, like hitting the reset button in a video game. He literally said it's like a fresh timeline now. Now, in his mind, late 2020 through to 2023 was a bit of a detour, right? Kind of a waste of time for XRP's price growth. So if we reset in now, say, 2023 or 2024, and then give XRP the same kind of 8-year runway that Bitcoin had, well, you land somewhere between 2031 and 2033 for XRP's true run towards $1,000. Now, to be safe here, he even stretched it to 2035 at the kind of latest, in some comments. Because, he's saying not this year, not next year, not even the next 5 years. We are talking 8 to 10 years out for the big goal. So hearing that, I kind of had mixed feelings, right? Part of me was like, oh, great, more waiting. I'll be pushing kind of middle age by the time this hypothetical payday even comes. But another part of me found it oddly kind of reassuring, like, okay, he's not promising a miracle overnight. He's just saying that you have to have patience of an absolute monk, and it could pay off. Now, it turns the kind of 1,000 idea of a lottery ticket into a long-term vision. Now, it's still super ambitious, of course, don't get me wrong, but it's a different tone from the usual to the moon next month stuff. Now, contrast the kind of Armando 8 to 10 year, outlook with some other projections floating around. There's another guy called Jack Claver from Digital Ascension Group, and I saw this kind of mention in the same article, like apparently, or at least who apparently is thinking that XRP could hit $1,500 to $2,000 by January 2026. And yes, you heard that right, as soon as January of 2026, which is actually barely just a blink away. So when I read that, I almost did another kind of spit take, like $2,000 by 2026 sounds beyond hyperbolic to me. Now, that would mean that XRP would have to go from around the $3 area to $2,000 in just a couple of months. That is an increase of something like 66,000% in just a few weeks. Now, I'm not saying anything is impossible in crypto. We've seen wild and weird things. But that particular scenario would require some next level kind of catalysts, like every bank and corporation on the planet suddenly using XRP exclusively, and maybe even aliens landing with bags of XRP. You kind of get the idea. It's way out there. Now, Armando flat out dismisses those 2026 moon boy projections. He says it's simply not happening by 2026. very bluntly. And I'm actually with him on this one, right? If I'm wrong, I'll gladly eat my crow. Heck, I'll throw a party for everyone if XRP hits $2,000 in January of 2026, but I'm not betting my rent on that. Now, before we all start kind of hallucinating about future riches, let me hit pause here for a second. This might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right, we had to get that out of the way. You've got to keep it responsible here because we are talking about some pretty pie-in-the-sky stuff, and I don't want anyone selling their house for XRP or anything crazy. Don't do that. Instead, let's approach this with a kind of fun thought, or at least as a fun thought experiment, and a long-term strategy kind of discussion, not a get-rich-quick scheme. So, picking up where we left off, Armando is basically saying, think long-term, like really long-term. And he kind of put his math where his mouth is. Now, in a post, he noted that he kind of willing to wait 10 plus years for a 33,233% return on XRP. That number obviously caught my eye. 33,233% is rather super specific, and it kind of sounds enormous because, well, it is. But funnily enough, when you actually break it down, that's roughly the kind of gain, or at least gain needed to go from around $3 to $1,000, and over 10 years, while that might be extreme, it's not unheard of in crypto. I mean, if, big if, XRP truly becomes integral into kind of global finance, like being used by, at least in international kind of settlements by banks worldwide, a 30,000% increase over a decade is actually quite feasible. Now, it would basically mean that XRP becomes one of the most valuable assets on Earth by market cap. You know, we're kind of talking potentially trillions in market capitalization, which, you know, that could happen by 2035, maybe. Stranger things have happened again. So let's think of it this way. About 10 years ago in 2015, Bitcoin was about $250. Ethereum was literally just launching via crowdfunding, you know, way before ETHgate, and XRP is maybe, you know, half a penny or so. The crypto landscape has transformed dramatically in that single decade. Now, here is another way that I see it. Crypto is like, I guess, an ongoing series, and each bull run is a season. So by 2035, we're going to have gone through a fair few more seasons of bull and bear cycles. So if XRP plays its cards right, strong tech, real adoption, more legal, at least no more legal handcuffs, well, one of those kind of future bull runs could be the one that actually sends it to the stratosphere. But, and this is important, you do have to survive until then. And surviving means holding, or as at least the crypto nerds keep saying, hodling, through a whole host of boring times and scary crashes. Armando's stance is essentially a test of faith and patience. Okay, let me get personal here for a moment. Back in late 2017, during that last kind of big XRP pump, I remember being at a holiday party trying to explain to my friends why I was excited that XRP hit $1. They looked at me like, okay, and that means what exactly? Then, in early 2018, XRP shot up to $3.30, and I felt like an absolute genius. For about a week, right? We thought that XRP was heading to the moon any day then. There were people on YouTube pushing the narrative that $100 or even the magical $589 was right around the corner. I, being a little bit of a noob back then, kind of believed some of it, right? I didn't sell at $3, I held, and well, we all know what happened next. Crypto winter came, and XRP dropped and stayed low for years. It was humbling. Now, I basically kind of chased a rumor and got smacked by reality. Why am I telling you this? It's because when I hear a $1,000 prediction, my knee-jerk reaction is, nah, I'm not falling for that again. But what did I actually learn here? It's not that the big numbers are actually impossible. It's that timing is everything, right? The crazy high prices might come, but not on the schedule that the hype would actually make you believe. Now, they might come when, most people actually have already given up. Armando's view kind of aligns with that lesson, right? It's hopeful, but also grounded in a timeline that most impatient investors just simply cannot stomach. Now, I resonate, at least that kind of resonated with me, because as someone who's kind of been burned by expecting overnight riches, it's kind of like he's saying, hey, the huge payoff can happen, but you do need to actually wait for it, like maybe a decade, and endure all of the ups and the downs in between. Now that kind of weirdly gives the $1,000 prediction more credibility, at least in my eyes, than if someone just said it's going to happen next month, like Jake, for example. I even kind of brought this topic up in our free educational Discord server. Shameless community plug. The link's in the description. It's free. Come and join us. Anyway, we had a lively debate. Some people think that, even 2035 is a little too optimistic. Others are like, I'm young. I can wait 10 years, no problem. One of my buddies there also joked that by the time the XRP is $1,000, we'll all be sending our kids off to college with our crypto gains. Another kind of pointed out that by 2035, $1,000 might not even be worth what it is today due to inflation. Another fair point, but hey, I'd still like to take a 30,000% gain regardless of inflation. The consensus, though, was that if you believe in XRP's tech and adoption story, then waiting isn't the worst idea. But if you're looking to get rich quick, there are probably more reliable ways to flip your money, and you'd at least be better off not touching crypto at all, honestly. So as for me, how am I playing all of this? Well, I'm not going to bet my entire life savings on XRP hitting $1,000. That would be irresponsible. And remember our disclaimer, I'm no financial advisor. I'm just a random guy on YouTube. But I do have a bag of XRP, and I've been holding it for many years. And after hearing, Armando's perspective here, I have zero plans to sell that core stash anytime soon, right? That one's in the vault. Maybe it's my kind of moonshot retirement play, who knows? At the same time, I'd like to stay proactive here. I sometimes trade a bit of XRP on the side when opportunities arise. It's kind of like if there's a big spike, I might just skim a little bit of the profit. And it's at least if there is a big dip, maybe I'll just add a little bit more, right? I use platforms like Blowfin and BitGet for some of those trades, but here's a quick transparency note. Those are affiliate links that are in the description down below, which means if you do sign up and trade using those links, it actually supports the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. I mentioned them because I actually use them, and hey, every little bit helps the channel keep growing and bring in this kind of content for you guys. But you've got to use whatever you are comfortable with. The key point here is that I try to stay engaged rather than just twiddling my thumbs for 10 years. Because let's face it, 10 years is a long time. You've got to keep yourself sane and informed during the wait. Now, here is the moment where, the whole $1,000 saga really hit me. I realized that it's not about the number. It's actually about the journey and the mindset. Now, I know that sounds cliche, but bear with me here. The idea of $1,000 XRP forced me to zoom out like I've never had before, right? So if we're used to at least we are so used to kind of thinking in days, weeks, maybe in months in crypto, but years, multiple decades, hardly anyone has the patience for that. And that's exactly why most people miss the really big gains, because they kind of simply can't hold on long enough. So when I kind of imagined myself in 2033 or 2035, probably looking at my XRP wallet and seeing a comma in the price, well, I would have to kind of laugh. Not because it's impossible, but because of how much personal growth that it would take to actually get there, right? I'd have to resist countless temptations to sell early, ignore countless doomsayers during the future bear markets, and hold on to the belief that this crazy plan might work out. It's almost like a character development arc in a story. Will I be the hero who holds until the end game, or the tragic character who lets go right before the finish line? Now that thought gave me chills, the kind of good kind. It was like an aha moment, right? Because maybe the true value is at least in adopting the long-term perspective, right? Even if XRP only goes to, let's say, $100 in 10 years instead of $1,000, that's still life-changing if you've planned accordingly. And if it doesn't, well, then at least I didn't bet everything on it, and I enjoyed the ride with a great community of like-minded people. Now, by the end of this little adventure, I've got to tell you, I felt hopeful. I'm not naive, pie-in-the-sky hopeful, like I might have been in 2018, but a more mature, tempered kind of hope maybe, and the kind of hope that you at least that acknowledges the challenges, the legal battles, the market cycles, the needing of massive adoption, but still says, hey, it could happen, given enough time. Armando's $1,000 prediction is, with all of his kind of caveats, basically just reminded me why I got into crypto in the first place. The possibility that holding the right asset for long enough can be transformational. It's the classic crypto dream, but with at least a realistic twist. You've got to be in it for the long haul, and you've got to be able to stomach the ride. Now, I appreciate that he is indirectly saying, don't put a hard date on it, right? The minute that you start saying buy next year and it doesn't happen, people lose faith and they will bail. By keeping the timeline flexible, 8 to 10 years or maybe more, it becomes less about the exact date being hit and exactly the $1,000 and more kind of trajectory. It's like planting a tree. You don't stand there with a stopwatch, do you? Right? You just know that in a decade you'll have something big if you water it and you kind of leave it be. And if it withers, well, you learn and you plant something else. Now, of course, right? I'm not telling you to go out and buy XRP, right? For all I know, XRP could completely flop. Maybe some new technology comes out that makes it just obsolete, or maybe the adoption just never really pans out as hoped. Nothing is guaranteed. Remember the disclaimer that we went through. But if you're an XRP believer, there's a case to be made for just chilling, holding, and checking back in a decade. Worst case, you wasted some time and you could have used the money elsewhere. The best case is that you're in a very good spot financially. And Armando has said, or at least as he has said, waiting 10 years for over 30,000% in returns is kind of worth it. And I think a lot of us would agree with that, if we truly believed in those returns were possible. And so here I am, someone who started out the evening doubting the $1,000 XRP thing, and I've come out on the other side kind of buying into it. Not as a prophecy, but as a probability that I'm willing to be patient for. It's funny how a little bit of research and an open mind can change your outlook, isn't it? Now, I went from rolling my eyes to actually doing mental math on what I could do if XRP hit that price in 2030 something. Don't lie, all right? I know you're daydreaming about it too. All right. So that's my story of chasing the $1,000 XRP rumor and learning a thing or two about patience. If you've enjoyed this little adventure and got some value, or at least a little bit of entertainment out of it, then you can do me a solid. You can hit that like button to show the algorithm that you have enjoyed this video. You can hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos, and you can join me on the next adventure. Until then though, I will catch you all in the next one.